Hello, my name is Lynn Ednance Olepus. I am Rising Woman Miss Tourism Teso 2023, and with me are my fellow queens from the Miss Tourism Teso cluster, and we are here to speak about gender-based violence, but mainly focusing on the youth. One of the biggest challenges that the youth are facing is one, online stigmatization. As you notice, the youth and this generation are more of what we would call a social media or online generation. So you find that most of the things that happen are going to be happening online. And one thing that we have seen, and I'm sure that we all cannot deny, is usually when someone comes onto social media, let's say X, and they speak about an experience they have had in relation to gender-based violence. It could be defilement, rape, domestic violence, all which are forms of gender-based violence. What usually happens is when you look at the comments, most of them are being dragged and blamed for what may have happened to them, as opposed to giving them a hand to help, a safe place, and creating that environment for them to feel like the community is actually going to shield them when this happens. And what this has caused is a situation where other youth cannot speak up. So many people will suffer under gender-based violence. It could be any of the forms, and they will fail to speak up because they feel like if they actually speak up, they will be blamed for what has happened to them. So this is really a call to the community leaders, the government, different civil society organizations, and other queens, could be tourism queens or from different pageants, extra voice to people that are suffering or that have been affected by gender-based violence. We need to understand that GBV is not just an issue of the victim, but if we enable the victims and we keep quiet, then we are actually creating a platform for more people to abuse other people. We are creating room for there to be more victims. Yet if we all spoke, if we all joined our voices, or whichever way we have, because we all have different platforms. As queens, we could use our platforms, but you could be out there and maybe you're a lawyer and you can advocate for them, give them free legal aid, or you could be a leader in the community and you can actually go to the grassroots and speak against this. So it's really for us to realize that GBV is a challenge to humanity. It's not just a challenge to the victim or close people to the victim. This is a challenge to humanity, and we must all rise up against this. We must join voices, we must join forces and help out in whichever way we can. Thank you.
My name is Queen Amoding Inidmasi, Miss Tourism Teso 2022-2023. My advice to the youth who are doing drugs or misusing drugs is, firstly, you need to understand that addiction is a disease. It's an illness and you cannot fight it alone. Always seek medical help. If you cannot open up to anyone or your family members or your friends, just go to a facility. There is help available. There are mental health services available, there are rehabs. You don't have to be a victim. Thank you so much.
Are the cultural institutions. We work with cultural institutions. So we work with cultural institutions across Uganda, and we believe that they have a huge role to play in the fight against gender-based violence, because these are people that are listened to. These are people who command respect in the communities, and I believe that if they joined in the fight against gender-based violence, advocate for it and encourage the community to work together to curb this vice, that there would be a tremendous change in the fight against gender-based violence in the country. So as Miss Tourism, as a fraternity, we call upon you, our cultural leaders, who have worked effortlessly to promote unity and peace in our communities, to join in the fight against gender-based violence, against men, against women, against children, and all the different groups in our societies, that you can add your voice in the fight against gender-based violence and work with us to ensure that we have no more cases of gender-based violence in our country and in this world. Thank you very much.
Okay. My name is Dr. Bodo Bongomin. I work at the WHO country office here in Uganda as a national professional officer in charge of child, adolescent health and nutrition. And been there for the last 8 years, in fact since 2016 when I first joined WHO. I've been really, my area of work has been main adolescent health, and when you talk about adolescents, they're really the major victims of gender-based violence or sexual gender-based violence. In fact, in a recent study that we did, not so recent though, about 2017, we sampled adolescents from all the regions of the country, both adolescents who are in school and adolescents who are out of school, and interviewed them to find out their exposure to violence. And it's really quite interesting to note what we found. We found that actually about 3 out of 4 adolescents approximately had actually been exposed to violence at one time. And what's the common form of violence? The commonest of that, about 60%, was actually physical violence. So that means either being beaten, being boxed, or The second most common was emotional violence, being abused and all that. That was, I think, about close to 40-something%. And then sexual violence was found in about, those who have ever had sexual violence was about 10%. But again, who were these perpetrators of this violence? You would be surprised to really, you'll be surprised to know what they reported. The most common perpetrators of this violence were actually people whom the adolescent knew. So this was either a friend to their parent, a friend to their uncle. Sometimes it was quite interesting that it was people living in the same homes with them. So stepfathers, violating stepdaughters. So it's really a big problem, and that's why this particular meeting here is is highly relevant, because when you bring people of like minds, people who are advocates, to come together to discuss ways to to address the problem of sexual gender-based violence or violence per se, it adds value. It gives hope for the adolescents who are really victims of this vice. So I would like to really applaud Yali for having organized this meeting here, and really for having given that opportunity to come and participate as WHO. We remain committed, as usual, to support all efforts that are geared towards prevention of violence that affects children and adults through all the interventions. I already talked in this meeting about the INSPIRE strategy, which is really an evidence-based strategy that WHO developed a few years ago, that addresses violence in a comprehensive manner, from managing the victims who have been exposed to violence, to prevention, to economic empowerment, to making sure that we change more norms, to making sure that laws are implemented and enforced. So we look forward to really the recommendations from this meeting, and we'll support it fully. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. I have had to leave her.